Robert Barnes went on a podcast called Paramount Tactical, and they discussed a letter that was allegedly sent from the IRS to Turning Point.
All right. So that is just kind of the tip of the iceberg as far as the allegations. I know that Wolves and Finances have kind of brought to the fore against TPUSA. And Robert, I know I actually got some of the documents, the letter from the IRS to Erika Kirk and TPUSA that talks about what their situation is as regards to the IRS.
Shout out to Wolves and Finance. This man just exposed the stupidity of Erika Kirk, along with the stupidity of Gary from Paramount Tactical. This is hilarious.
The letter itself has never been shown until Paramount Tactical's podcast. In fact, I'm guessing he was not supposed to show this to his audience. He was not supposed to show this to his audience because it is quite shocking. It is a 2-page letter on Department of the Treasury letterhead. It says it is responding to a request from Erika Kirk. It says, 1, there is no IRS investigation currently underway on Turning Point. 2, all 4 990 forms were filed by May 15th, 2025. 3, the next year's forms will be filed by May 15th, 2026. The letter is signed by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Paramount Tactical is presenting this letter as some kind of evidence that there is no fraud at Turning Point. That is ridiculous for a number of reasons. We all know this because all of us deal with the IRS. We all know this is not normal behavior. Have any of you ever received a letter from the IRS saying, just letting you know, we're not doing an investigation on you? No, of course you have not.
Nobody on the planet has ever hit you up from the IRS and said, hey, you're doing a good job. There is no fraud. Who does that? The only time the IRS is going to hit you up is when you are doing something wrong. So why in the world would the IRS send out a letter to confirm that they're not doing anything wrong? Shout out to Gary at Paramount Tactical. This dummy done turned around and posted the letter that he wasn't supposed to post.
Because the IRS does not do this. And it's not coming from the IRS. The letter is signed by the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. To me, this looks more like a political favor to Donald Trump's personal friends than a legitimate IRS communication. This letter does not look like it came from the IRS. It looks like it came from the President of the United States.
Isn't that collusion or something?
Do you understand what this means? This is the only document the Democrats need to impeach President Trump. To impeach President Trump. To impeach President Trump.
I just want everybody to think for a second. Either Erika, Tyler Boyer, or somebody at Turning Point USA went to Donald Trump, like Donald Trump is their daddy, and tried to get the President of the United States to intervene in an IRS investigation. That is against the law.
This looks like the president's handwriting on official letterhead of him interfering in an IRS investigation of his personal friends. Let me remind you of Richard Nixon. Nixon faced impeachment charges for interfering with the FBI investigation into the Watergate scandal. The main evidence was secret tape recordings of conversations in the Oval Office. Donald Trump is doing the same thing with the IRS investigation, but this time we have what looks like his handwriting on official letterhead.
This is crazy.
Let's look again at the 4 nonprofit company.
This guy's name is Wolves of Finance. A lot of y'all already know, but shout out to Wolves of Finance because this is absolutely hilarious. But this shows how stupid and idiotic the people at Turning Point USA are. They're idiots. And that's why I keep saying.
We have Turning Point USA, Turning Point Action, Turning Point Endowment, and America's Turning Point. 3 of these companies are 501c3 organizations. Turning Point Action is a 501c4. The difference is that a 501c3 is not allowed to participate in political activity. A 501c4 can participate in no more than 50% political activity. And then there is also Turning Point PAC, which is 100% political activity. Now, I've seen arguments from people claiming that this is normal. They say it is normal for nonprofits to have multiple different companies. Not like this, it's not.
Not like this is not. And I'm going to put Wolves of Finance's channel in the description so y'all can watch the whole video because this is not his whole video. I think his video is like 45 minutes long. So I want y'all to go over and give him a follow and check his channel out if you have not already, because he's giving out bars after bars after bars.
Do not let people gaslight you about what's going on here. Let me explain what is unusual. You would normally create different shell companies for different types of activities. For instance, Turning Point Endowment is for their investments. That's clearly a different type of activity. It gets its own company. That makes sense. Turning Point Action is a 501c4. That's a different type of activity, so it gets its own company. What is this? Why is America's Turning Point separate? The company descriptions on the 990 form are very similar. It's basically education for young people.
Education for young people. Tyler Boyer is over Turning Point, America's Turning Point. He actually transferred $84 million over to that shell company for whatever reason. And they're trying to make it look like it's legal.
So why are these 2 different companies? The only major difference that I see is that Charlie Kirk managed Turning Point USA and Tyler Boyer managed America's Turning Point. America's Turning Point existed to give Charlie Kirk plausible deniability, plausible deniability, plausible deniability.
This is what I said about all of this in the first place. Remember, we've all talked about, well, we all questioned, I would say, did Charlie Kirk know about all the things that Tyler Boyer and all these other weirdos have been doing with Turning Point? This might actually be the smoking gun right here. The answer to that is yes. Charlie Kirk knew what Tyler Boyer and everybody else and all these crooked ass pastors was doing with Turning Point USA. He separated the companies in order to have plausible deniability. This is literally the smoking gun that we all need. This is absolutely crazy. Shout out to Wolves of Finance.
Are very similar. It's basically education for young people. So why are these two?
So they're the same actual company, but he separated the two companies that are doing the exact same thing in order to just be like, I didn't know what Tyler Boyer was doing. I didn't know what these crooked pastors was doing. I didn't know what Erika Kirk was doing.
The only major difference that I see is that Charlie Kirk managed Turning Point USA and Tyler Boyer managed America's Turning Point. So in a way, America's Turning Point existed to give Charlie Kirk plausible deniability. It gave Tyler Boyer his own 501c3 where he could do whatever he wanted, and Charlie Kirk would not necessarily know about it. This is explained in the fine print of the 990 form for Turning Point USA, which says, Turning Point USA's other educational programs include campus leadership programs, which are hosted by Turning Point USA's related entity, America's Turning Point, with grants totaling $8.6 million. $8.6 million. $8.6 million.
I don't think they were grants. Here's proof.
Coming with the receipts.
The other thing I mentioned in my last video was the missing $8.6 million that was transferred.
So right here in an older video, you hear how he says $8.6 million was transferred, not from a grant. It was transferred
from Turning Point USA to America's Turning Point. Now we have the finances so we can see how that money was spent. Just to recap, there are 4 shell companies. Turning Point USA is the main one. Then we have Turning Point Action, America's Turning Point, and Turning Point Endowment. Just as a reminder, Tyler Boyer is the only paid executive listed for America's Turning Point.
Watch this.
Is not even listed. So it seems strange to me.
Charlie Kirk is not even listed. And look what happens. Tyler Boyer himself transfers or pays himself $8.6 million.
In FY24, $8.6 million mysteriously got transferred out of the main company into the shell company managed by Tyler Boyer. It's not just about where the money was going to, it's also where the money was coming from. When I was going through all the new financial information, I saw this chart and immediately I had a good idea of what was going on. This shows revenue going into Turning Point Action.
All of this is going on in order for Charlie Kirk, if he was still alive, and if he was to get sued, he can turn around and say, he was in charge of that. Not me. I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know he did that. I didn't know he did this. Plausible deniability.
And you can see a gigantic leap in revenues for FY24.
Whoa. There you go. You got him right there.
What? We got him.
You got him right there. Going into what? Turning Point Action?
And make sure to hit the like button. Everybody make sure to hit the like button.
Everybody hit the like button. Everybody hit the like button. Everybody hit the like button.
So what is Tyler Boyer doing with these students? It sounds like this leadership program is a pipeline for these students to go work for Tyler Boyer. For these students to go work for Tyler Boyer.
He sent him to Turning Point Action. The next thing you know, he was like, okay, I got a key card. I got the passwords. I'll just take all the money from Turning Point USA and transfer it over to Turning Point Action. So all of this is Charlie Kirk and not just Tyler Boyer. So for anybody, just for the record, who did not think that Charlie Kirk had anything to do with any of this stuff, all the stuff that we're talking about with Tyler Boyer and all these other people, this is proof that Charlie Kirk 1000% knew.
Wow.
Went from 10.7 million to 27.2 million. That is over 150% increase in 1
He still got all the passwords.
year. An extraordinary achievement for a nonprofit. What is even more curious is when you put this chart side by side with.
Remember the last video we did and we said this company made $85 million, but they spent 80 million. Remember?
Yes.
Yeah, they spent $81 million in order to make $4 million because they went from 80 million to 84 million. So they spent $80 million in order to make $4 million. And we was like, what
I'm like,
the hell?
How can you? And then there was one part that said 8 million on videographer. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Billion? How's that even possible? Huh?
It's not unless it's fraud. Look at this mess. I don't know if it's fraud, so I don't want to get sued.
Stop.
It's almost like they did not want Charlie Kirk to know about it. Now, we don't know who these mysterious new donors are, but it looks like someone was trying to take over MAGA, and they were doing it behind Charlie Kirk's back.
Go watch Wolves of Finance's last video. It's going to be in the description. I just wanted to show y'all exactly what's going on. This is the man that Turning Point USA is trying to sue. And as you can see, he isn't backing down. And if a person that is in an active lawsuit, along with Candace Owens, because they sent her a letter too, if they aren't shutting up, we aren't shutting up. So make sure to hit the like button and make sure watch this video here or here or here, wherever you see it show up. Watch my playlist or watch this video. I'll talk to y'all later.
Everybody hit the like button.